Hello everyone. So I'm Laura Lee Humphreys. I'm a health coach, nutritional consultant, and aromatherapist, and I wanted to share with you a few tips about ways you can take care of yourself. And so I wanted to start out with asking you a couple of questions. Do you experience much dizziness or headaches? How about low energy levels? Do you have issues with your appetite or skin issues? Or do you have a difficult time responding to stress? All of these are indications that your liver could use some help. So I'm going to talk to you today about ways that you can support your liver, and I'm also going to talk to you about a specific gene that affects the liver function. And so if you know that you have a variation of this gene known as a SNP, or an extra, where the gene is not, formed the way it could be optimally, then this will affect how your liver can function. So the gene that we're talking about today is called EPHX1. So what does this do? Well, it supports the detoxification process of the liver's ability to break down pollutants that we are exposed to every day, including and especially cigarette smoke, car exhaust, pesticides, alcohol, smoke from burning wood, and etc. And so this gene, the EPHX1 gene, is responsible for the way that the liver makes the enzyme called the EPHX1 enzyme. And that enzyme allows the liver to optimally function to break down all of these pollutants that I just mentioned. So if you have a SNP in your genetic code, which by getting your genes tested or your genetics tested, then you would know whether or not you inherited this particular SNP from either your mother or your father or both. And if you do have that, then you're going to want to take extra precautions, extra measures to support your liver so that it can make this enzyme so that it can detoxify all of these foreign chemicals. So let's talk a little bit more about detoxification. And I have several notes here that I'm going to be referring to. So if I look down, then just bear with me because I'll be referring to these notes that I can share with you today. And if you have any questions about anything that I'm sharing, please leave comments below with this video. You can shoot me an email. You can shoot me a direct message through Facebook Messenger. You can contact me, and I'll leave the information of how you can find me below this video. Also, I want you to let you know that I have a newsletter that I'm inviting you to join. If you like the content here, if you find it useful, you want to learn more of ways that you can care for yourself and through holistic nutrition and through a holistic lifestyle, then join my newsletter, contact me, and let me ask me about joining that, and I will make sure to add you to my newsletter so that you can receive all of this information. I send out things about a couple of times a week. Okay? So detoxification refers to the elimination of toxic substances from the body. And the body gets these toxic substances in a variety of ways, which I'll talk about in a minute. The body's first line of defense against these toxic substances are found in the liver, and is one of the many functions that the liver does. It does like several hundred, I want to say close to 700 functions every day to keep you going, to keep you healthy. So we really want to take care of our liver and all of its many things. And one of the best ways of doing that is giving it the proper nutrition, which I'll touch on in this video as well. When the liver detoxifies these foreign chemicals, highly reactive other chemicals are formed, or byproducts are formed, And some of these are responsible for oxidation reactions with critical biological targets such as DNA and proteins. And so these reactive other byproducts or biochemicals, we want to be able to get rid of them so that they don't interfere with other proteins in the body and other strands of our DNA. The body's way of eliminating these damaging chemicals is through the EPHX1 gene, or EPHX1 enzyme. A poorly performing detoxification system can lead to overwhelm of the liver, and which in turn can influence things like poor energy levels, poor appetite, unhealthy skin, the dizziness, the headaches, the things that I referred to before, and our ability to deal with stress. So we really want to beef this up. So let's talk a little bit also about the liver itself. So in Chinese medicine, then it is associated with the element of wood. And if you know anything about the traditional Chinese medicine and the 5-element theory, then there's 5 different elements or qualities or energies that go through the body that are associated with the different organs and their characteristics and how they function. So with the liver, it's associated with the element of wood, which corresponds to the season of spring. So in spring, we've got a lot of new growth, a lot of dark leafy greens come up, and everything is preparing for the next growing season. So the wood element is an expression of life force energy as it expands and rises like the shoot of a plant, embodies activated growth in the springtime. In this phase, the life force latent from the water element in Chinese medicine is aroused and then given direction through the will of the kidneys and then channeled to a sense of purpose. So I don't want you to be confused by that. Just let that kind of pass through you. If you understand Chinese medicine and the 5 elements, then that would make sense. If not, don't worry about it. So the wood element in nature is apparent not only in the coming of new life in the springtime, but also in the entire process of evolution. And in the body, as this quality of life force element or life force energy that is characterized by the wood element, it oversees the body's cycles and rhythms. It governs both our need to develop and our ability to adapt. And when you look at the functions of the liver, then you can see how this would apply, because the liver is always doing different detoxification processes, breaking things down in order for us to develop and continue having a healthy body, as well as to adapt to whatever's going on in our life. Also, at a basic level, the wood element is concerned with movement, with motivation, growth, and with the harmonious flow of life. The principal organ of the wood element is liver. The liver influences the nails. So if you have poor, weak nails and tendons, or sinews, as the old term goes, and ligaments, then that is an indication that you have a weak liver, or that you need to do some nutritional and energetic support with your liver. The liver is responsible for ensuring a smooth flow of life force energy throughout the body and the mind. And it has an importance, a very strong and important influence upon the blood. It stores blood in times of rest and releases it when we become active, and maintains, as with life force energy, its smooth and equitable flow. So along with the circulation of the heart pumping and doing its thing, then the liver is going to contribute to the quality and vitality of blood. If the liver falters in its action of spreading life force energy through the body with the flow of blood, then that energy will become impeded or irregular or congested and create problems where that energy pools up and congests. The physical tissues of that area is going to be reflected by it of that through impaired function, less health, and ultimately you'll feel it as discomfort and pain. When the life force energy stagnates, problems that involve spasm, distension, constriction, and pain are likely to arise. This can include constipation, headaches, and painful menstruation. So if you're having issues with your period, then you want to look at blood flow, which is influenced strongly by the liver, and then you're going to want to take measures to strengthen the liver, including nourishing it so that this one enzyme, the EPHX1 enzyme, can be properly made to break down all of these foreign toxins. If both the blood and the life force energy becomes stagnant and congested, then the problem goes even deeper and the pain can be more severe. So you can have congestion both of the physical blood flow as well as your energy. So you want to kind of just notice that and just kind of look at how are you feeling? How is your period? If you're still having them, or if you have still in the menstrual cycle, how does the blood flow? And if you have problems there. Stagnation of life force energy and blood is also related to nervous tension and frustration. Tense mood and irritable conditions disrupt liver function and constrict the flow of life force energy. And another common emotion associated with the liver is anger. So if you have tendencies to get angry quickly or often, and you just fly off the handle real fast, then look at that and see how you are digesting your food. What kind of, do you have headaches and dizziness or other types of things going on? Are you stressed out a lot? Because that is an indication that the liver is working overtime and could use some support and awareness from you. Also, on the other hand, if the life force energy is stagnant, then it will produce some nervous tension. So it can go either way. If you're already in tension, it can create the stagnation, and the stagnation can then create further tension. It's known or considered in the Chinese medicine theory that your ethereal soul or your beingness is housed in the liver. We often think of it housed either in the mind, in our pineal gland, or in our heart, which you can access it there in those places, but you can also access your innate beingness, your soul or your essence through your liver. If you didn't know that, that's another access point. And that is the aspect of yourself, or the qualities of yourself that you can access through the liver, are the subtle, expansive aspects of your psyche that links your individual mind with the universal mind. It's the source of our dreams and our visions that we derive from the ethereal soul or our essence, a sense of purpose and direction of life. Not only is it associated with our inspirational dreams and visions, but with sleeping, dreaming, and the faculty of sight. And in traditional Chinese medicine, then the eyesight, the health of the eyes, is very, very much connected to your liver. So if you're having issues with your eyesight, then you want to really spend some time focusing on your liver and beefing it up with a lot of nutrition, cleansing it, detoxifying it, giving it everything that it needs so it can function optimally, and then notice how that affects your eyesight. Okay. The ethereal soul that's anchored in your liver provides the mind with movement and with adaptability, allowing it both the capacity for introspection and the power to project outward. And like the liver, it possesses a regulating function, helping you to maintain emotional balance through curbing extremes of excitement and inertia. So you can have a balance between movement and rest. When this element of wood or aspect of the life force energy is out of whack or in a state of disharmony, it can result in either a lack of purpose and ambition, or behavior which is rigid, ruthless, and compulsive. So, do you find yourself in those states of stuck being rigid and without a lot of purpose and ambition? Then if so, here's an indication for you to look at beefing up and supporting your liver to access the essence of your beingness, of who you really are, so that you can find some direction and strengthen your will so that you can take action and get beyond the state of stagnation in your life. And just notice where stagnation shows up. It could be in any area of your life, not just within your liver. So just check that and notice and listen on to see what you can do about it if you find yourself here. The liver's normal capacity for assertiveness, for clearly expressed, well-controlled anger, properly expressed, controlled anger, that can become suppressed when life force energy in your liver becomes stagnant, and then explosive when there's too much heat or yang energy. So that may sound real kind of esoteric or confusing for you, but just recognize the mind-body connection of what the Chinese wisdom is telling you here. So if you're having a hard time dealing with anger, and oftentimes we can be angry and frustrated because we don't have clarity and don't have the motivation and the drive or a sense of purpose. And so we're stagnating in our lives, in our relationships, in our money flow, or our careers, and that can spin us out into all kinds of stress and other secondary emotions, which then the liver has to work overtime to deal with all of that energy, that stress, and those emotional chemicals, because we are stuck in this mode. So you can help yourself get out of that rut nutritionally by addressing the health of the body. That's one avenue in, or one access point. And then as you're taking care of your body physically with some of the things I'll be suggesting to you, you can also look at the emotional care, mental states of being that drive the stress, the anger, the sense of no motivation or no purpose. And so you can hit things from both ends of the candle, so to speak. So when the life force energy of your liver becomes real stagnant, it's also associated with a type of depression that comes with the anger and resentment that you're not able to express and resolve. And when those feelings get stagnant and unexpressed long enough, they will turn inward into a de-evolutionary spiral downward that can affect your soul, your essence, your spirit of how you do your life, where you can just feel like giving up on things, causing its natural state of hope and vision to become one of bitterness and of despair. So, check yourself and find and just assess, are you stuck in any of those states? Are you having a hard time with the anger, the despair, the bitterness? And if so, then you'll really want to take measures to kind of start getting out of that rut. So let's talk a little bit about the physical functions of the liver and what it does. Because with understanding that and supporting the functions of the liver physically, then it can trickle down into helping you get through the stuckness, the stagnation of your energy and your emotional states that I just mentioned. So the liver is a gateway to the immune system. It's very connected and works very closely with the immune system. Every single chemical that goes into your body has to go through the liver in order to get broken down before going into the blood. So that's a lot to take in right there. It makes the liver very busy. So when you think about all of the chemicals and pollutants that you are exposed to just as you go about your day, through the traffic, being outside in the air, breathing impure air, chemicals that are around there, bad environments. When you look at or consider what you're putting on your body, what do you wash your face with? What kind of makeup do you have? Skincare, hair care, personal care products. How many of those are filled with horrendous, hideous, toxic ingredients that are very harmful? All of those, your liver has to work with and break down and do something with so that they don't poison you further. When you consider all of the stuff that's in your diet, do you have a healthy, clean, plant-based diet? Or is it one more that's closer to the standard American diet, which is filled with filth, with poor nutritional, with hardly any nutrition, number one, and a lot of added chemicals, hormones, preservatives, drugs, chemicals that are known to disrupt the endocrine system, that are known to be xenoestrogens, or they are mimickers of what estrogen does in the body. And if that's the case, where there's too much of that, it will throw off the hormone balance of what your estrogen is supposed to do. And that creates a whole cascade of problems, including cancers. When you look at the other chemicals in food, for example, MSG, neurotoxins, GMO'd things, I mean, the list is endless of the garbage that's in our weaponized food that's meant to destroy your health. Look at all of the sugar, the processed flours, refined flour products. All of that, when you eat a very poor diet filled with all of those chemicals, that creates a huge strain on your liver because it has to break down all of those chemicals and do something with them to eliminate them from your body. And that's very easy for the liver to get overwhelmed with all of that work. And a lot of those chemicals, if they're not broken down properly, they'll re-enter the blood and get recirculated through the body. A lot of proteins, if they're not broken down properly, they can also get recirculated into the blood. And so that sets you up for all kinds of problems. So you really want to take a look at what you're putting into your mouth and how that's affecting everything. So the liver makes bile, which is an alkaline liquid, or it's a salty substance. And that's what makes your stool the color that it is. So if it's ever white, tan, or green, that is an indication that your liver is really in trouble because you're not making enough bile. So the bile is something that in and of itself, it's a substance that can be very intense and irritating. And if it will get reabsorbed back into the blood and into the liver if you don't have enough fiber in your diet to sweep it through the intestines. So again, you want to look at what are you eating? It always goes back to what are you eating? The bile's function is to emulsify fat and break them down, break up fat-soluble toxins, of which there are many, and bind them with the bile so that they can be eliminated from the body. And then from the fats in the food, then the bile extracts them and does whatever it does to help the body make essential fatty acids, which is the correct type of fats, like the omegas 3, 6, and 9s, that your body needs. If it doesn't do that, then the fat-soluble compounds will circulate in your blood and become toxic and dangerous. So talking about the healthy fats, you want to have a lot of them in the proper ratios between the omega-3s and 6 and 9s, because every single cell of your body needs proper healthy fat. The membranes or the skin of every single cell in your body, and there's like 65 trillion of them. The thing that makes the cell stand out or individualized is this little membrane or skin that makes it its own little entity. And that skin or that membrane is made of fatty lipids or fats. You have miles and miles and miles of nerve tissue in your body, and including your brain. Your electrical system is your nervous system. And there's a fatty sheath that insulates every single cell of your nerves, the miles and miles and miles and miles of them. Additionally, most of your brain is made of fat. So if you don't have the proper fats in your diet, then your nervous system, your brain functioning is going to be compromised. If your nerves aren't properly insulated with this fatty sheath, that can set you up for all of that nervous tension and agitation and even anger and all of that emotional stuff that I just talked about that's associated with the liver through the Chinese medicine philosophy. So it all ties together. And the more you follow some of these videos that I'm making, then you'll be able to start to grasp those pieces and then see how you can apply them to yourself in your life. So toxins that come from outside of the body are called endogenous toxins. So like the cigarette smoke, the wood smoke, the environmental pollutants, the things in your skincare, your hair care, the household cleaning products are absolutely loaded with very harmful chemicals, in addition to all of the stuff that I mentioned in your food that you put in your mouth. So again, the liver has to break all of that stuff down, and if you have too much of it, then it can get overwhelmed and cause a lot of problems and that stagnation that I mentioned earlier. And then the body itself makes a variety of toxic substances as a result of its various functions. And one of the things that can get out of hand is the microorganisms that are inherent in our bodies. For example, there's fungus or candida that's in our gut that's always there. It's inherent in the body. There's a lot of microorganisms, bacteria. Some viruses could be inert. And if they are in a toxic, acidic environment for too long because you've given it too much sugar and crap in your diet and toxic chemicals in your food, in your products that you put in your body, then that environment will influence all of these microorganisms, including the candida, to change their form and their function. So rather than being life supportive, then they become aggressive, life deteriorating organisms. Candida is a very common example of this. It's very benign when it's in balance and check with everything else that's in your body, but if it gets out of whack, then it can bore holes through cellular walls, it can get into the bloodstream, it can travel through all over into your body, other body orifices in your mouth and your other just all over the body and create a lot of problems. It becomes an aggressive yeast. That's where yeast infections come from, is the candida that's gotten out of control. And so again, the body or the liver has to work with all of that to keep it broken down, to keep it into a good harmonious balance, keep everything in check. Allergens are benign compounds that, for one reason or another, have a maladaptive response or reaction for people. And it stimulates an immune response, which can lead to inflammation, to food allergies, to autoimmune disorders if it's gone extreme. And a lot of these are a result of poor digestion. When we look at the cells of your intestinal lining, they're supposed to be really tight like this, fitting very tightly together. And then the nutrients will pass through in between the cells to be absorbed into the blood and then carried into the liver and all through the body. However, if you have what's called leaky gut, and you've probably heard that term before, then it's known as the loose junctions between the cells, where the cells become real loose like this. They don't fit together tightly like they're supposed to. And so undigested proteins can slip through, undigested food particles, all kinds of yeast and critters that I call them, and microorganisms and bacteria, heavy metals can go through there and get into the blood, and that's what creates a lot of the problems. They'll deposit themselves all along your blood vessels. They can go into joints, contribute to arthritis and stiffness and swelling and inflammation. They can contribute to stones, gallstones, kidney stones, because the body's trying to break that stuff down, making too much bile because you've got too much toxicity and too many foreign agents going through your body, and the liver is having a hard time dealing with it all. So really look at, what are you doing? How are you taking care of yourself? Is it time to make a few changes? And if so, then what would you like them to be? Where are you going to start? You know, one example of a good place to start would be to get your DNA tested to see if you do have this gene SNP, or this gene variant for this EPHX1 gene that makes it difficult for your body to properly produce the EPHX1 enzyme in your liver, which does a lot of the breaking down and detoxification of all of these chemicals that I'm talking about. Okay, a couple more notes here, and then we'll get on to some foods and things that you can do for it. So, a couple of indications to let you know that you've got a stressed, congested liver is if you've got headaches frequently, if you experience dizziness and disequilibrium, then that is a state of toxicity and an alteration of circulation in your blood sugar and brain chemistry, where things are a little off, making you dizzy. And again, your liver's been stressed, trying to deal with it all. Diarrhea. If you have too much bile flow, then that is a sign of an impaired and stressed out liver. Anxiety can also contribute to this. If you have pain around your scapulas on your back, and it kind of moves around, you can't quite pinpoint it, then that's an indication that your liver is all jacked up. Hepatitis, as we know, is getting a virus from drinking contaminated water or eating contaminated foods, and that kind of really messes with the liver, as we all know. The energy levels that you experience are directly correlated to the liver function and the life force energy that's flowing through the liver, as I mentioned earlier in this video. Bad breath is an indication of an impaired liver. It's also an indication that your intestinal tract is all packed up and filled with waste that are fermenting. Sounds really kind of disgusting when you think about it, but if you had a poor diet, you don't have enough fiber in your diet, you don't have enough things, your intestines aren't moving things through, which affects the liver function and the bile function, then you've got a lot of stuff putrefying, and then all the smell comes up out through your mouth, and then you kind of wonder if people are smelling your bad breath. So rather than wonder, then just do a cleanse, take some foods that I'll be suggesting to you in a few minutes, and get things moved out through the back door and support your liver so that it can do its job in breaking down all the impurities and toxins. The liver is like a secondary digestive tract. So the primary one is where we eat the food, we chew it up, it goes into our into our stomach. The stomach makes hydrochloric acid to break up the protein, and then our pancreas makes other enzymes, and then our saliva makes enzymes to break down the carbs, the fats, the proteins that we eat. And then it goes into the blood to be filtered, to be detoxified and purified with all of the different many enzymes that the liver makes, one of which is this EPHX1 enzyme that we've been talking about. So the liver does two different phases of detoxification. The first phase is known as burning stuff up, breaking down and burning up all the toxic chemicals and all the toxicity. And that's where a lot of the enzymes are used in order to do that. And then the second phase is to reconfigure them, again using enzymes and the chemical reactions to make those once toxic substances inert, bind them with bile, and do what it needs to do to eliminate from the body. So all of that, the liver needs a great deal of nutritional support because it's doing so many things constantly and all of the time. And again, in Chinese medicine, then there's the Chinese clock, which means that for every 2 hours of the day within a 24 period, then various organs or meridian systems have a large amount of life force energy or chi going through them where their functions are being highlighted. For the liver, its time is between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. So if you're having a really difficult time sleeping, or you tend to wake up a lot between 1 and 3 a.m., it could be because your liver is having a very hard time doing its job, and it's stressed, it's congested, it's backed up because you have not been supporting it nutritionally, and instead you've been giving it too much toxic stuff to have to work with. So again, look at that, and that again ties in with how are you sleeping. So if that's the case, then shift things around with your diet. Eat earlier before going to bed. Go to bed early or earlier so that your body has a chance to really rest and rejuvenate, especially during those 2 hours when the liver is working so hard to metabolize and break down all of the different toxic things that you've done to it during the day, and just metabolize and sort out your day experiences. Another thing that I want to touch on that the liver has to break down all the time is hormones, especially with estrogen. That's a very, very strong chemical. And if that's out of whack, it will influence your emotional states as well as your menstrual flow and the ease of menstruation that you have. So if you're having foods that are loaded with xenoestrogens or chemicals that mimic estrogen, then your body's making its own estrogens, that's way too much estrogen. And that's what creates man boobs in men. It contributes to breast cancer in women, as well as a host of all other things, including difficult periods. It upsets, again, the blood flow, the circulation. So not only does the liver have to break down the chemicals of the hormones themselves, but when those are off, your emotional states is intrinsically very intimately connected to your hormones. And so then you're going to have all of the emotional molecules associated to the aggravation, the irritation, the anger, the stress, the frustration, all of those negative emotions that I mentioned earlier in the video. For every emotion that you feel, the body makes a chemical. So you have chemicals of joy, you have chemicals of satisfaction, you have chemicals of gratitude that your body makes. And those are easier for your body to break down because they're lighter, more positive, uplifting things. When you feel anger, depression, resentment, frustration, jealousy, grief, shame, all of the lower, heavier hitting, harder to deal with emotions, your body's making chemicals for those too. And your liver has to metabolize and break down those chemicals so that they can be eliminated from the body, just like everything else. So if you have all of this stress going on, you've got a horrible diet, your hormones are out of whack, you're using horrible products for your skincare and makeup and your household products, then you really have a chemical storm brewing, and it's going to go off and create health problems of all kinds for you unless you do something different. And one of the ways to start is by looking at all of the products in your house, all of the products in your kitchen, in your bathroom. Throw them out. Learn to read the ingredients and do some research onto what those ingredients are, and switch those out for healthier, non-toxic, cleaner ingredients so that your liver is not so compromised and stressed out and congested having to deal with all of that. And then clean up your diet. Get the crap out of your diet. Go to a plant-based diet of a lot of dark leafy greens. Those are really beneficial and helpful for the body to function, and especially for your liver to function and do everything that it needs to do. Okay. So with that being said, let's go on to a few foods that will help strengthen and support your liver, and especially the EPHX1 gene, which is responsible for making the enzyme by the same name. Green tea extract is very, very good and very helpful. The chlorophyll in it, the polyphenols and the catechins, and all the other nutrients in green tea is very, very helpful and supportive for the liver in doing all of its things and the detoxification processes. It also has a lot of chlorophyll, which is what makes it's the chemical that makes the plants green, which is very similar to the makeup of blood, and it's very helpful for both your blood, your circulation, and your liver. Milk thistle extract is also very helpful. It's a very strong liver antioxidant that helps protect the liver against free radicals caused by all the pollutants and the environmental toxins that it has to deal with. Milk thistle extract supports the membrane stability, which is important for liver tissue regeneration. And it helps the synthesis of glutathione, which is very essential for the liver to do all of its detoxification and immune boosting functions. And it protects the liver against the toxic byproducts of breaking down and detoxifying these harmful chemicals. Artichoke extract is also very helpful, or the artichoke food, as well as like not just the milk thistle extract, but the herb of the milk thistle. And then the artichoke extract. It has a major effect on the bile flow, and it's very protective for the liver. Cruciferous vegetables. There cannot be enough said about cruciferous vegetables. broccoli, kale, chard, Brussels sprouts, cabbages. Those are extremely, extremely, extremely helpful, supportive, and beneficial for your liver, and gives it a lot of the nutrients and things that it needs in order to do all of these different functions to break down and detoxify and cleanse and purify everything that it does. They promote the activation of phase 2 enzymes. Remember how I said the liver the detoxification process that the liver is in phase 1 and 2. So this is very helpful for phase 2, which is responsible for elimination and detoxification of the toxins. Burdock root powder is also very helpful and supportive. Schizandra berry powder. Now that is a berry that's found in China or in Asia. It's very, very common and popular in Chinese medicine and tonic herbs. It's very helpful in many, many different ways. It's known as a tonic herb, so it has 100 different functions. Gotu-kola herb extract is also very helpful with that. And then there's some essential oils that can also be useful for supporting your liver. And if you've used essential oils much, then you know that you have to know where your oils are sourced and know what is in the bottle of the essential oil. Essential oil brands and companies in the United States are not regulated, and so you have no idea what you are buying unless it has the documentation to go along with it, and the company that you're getting your oils from can provide you with where they source them from. A lot of the oils in the essential oil bottles there's only like 5%, 5 or 10% of the actual essential oil in there. And even that is not hardly a very good quality grade of the oil. It doesn't have the chemical compounds and components necessary to interact with your body to create and produce a health enhancing effect. So you've got to make sure your oils are high quality, pure therapeutic grade. So that's in the common oils that you find on the market on Amazon or wherever. Then what's often in them is, again, the 5 to 10% of actual essential oil. The rest, other 90% of the liquid in that bottle is synthetic, man-made chemicals, alcohols that create irritation and add to the toxic load of your body. So if you want some clean, pure oils, you want to know where I source mine from, that have where the brand, the company can tell me exactly where the plants were grown, how they were harvested, how the oil was distilled, whether or not there's anything in there, which there's not, how they're tested to ensure that there's no heavy metals, there's no impurities, there's no noxious chemicals in there, that the plants are grown from non-GMO seed, which is very important, that the plants have not been sprayed with all kinds of chemicals and pesticides, herbicides, nasty things where those chemicals would get into the oil of the plant. So many different factors that contribute to whether or not the essential oil is good. So why is this important? If you want to use an essential oil to produce a health enhancing effect, you have to understand that that effect is done by chemistry. The chemistry of the essential oil interacting with the chemistry of your body. If you do not have an oil that has a pure, or where the chemical makeup of the compounds of that oil is not in integrity and does not have the correct compounds and in the correct ratio that is required in order to produce this therapeutic change in your body, then why would you ever use the oil? It would be counterproductive completely. So that's why when I talk about essential oils, I always harp on the purity, because you have to know what you're getting. So that being said, and if you want to know what the oils I use are, then ask me. Get on my newsletter, and I'll be talking more about those in my newsletter, about things, ways of which you can use the oils for to help enhance your health and what to look for. Okay, so a few oils that can support your liver. You can take them, you can rub them on topically right over your liver, which is on the right hand side of your abdomen, just below your rib cage. You can diffuse them, and if you have the correct, pure, high quality oil, there's certain ones that you can take internally to support the liver from that angle too. So I'll give you a couple of oils that you can do for that. So there's an oil called Ledum, L-E-D-U-M, lemon essential oil, grapefruit essential oil, coriander essential oil, and then there's some other ones. Let me find this other list. Orange, I said that already. Rosemary is highly beneficial and very helpful for the liver. So is celery seed essential oil. German chamomile essential oil is also very good. And one last list of a couple more oils I wanted to share with you, and then we'll be wrapping that up. Okay, so helichrysum and spearmint with the hyssop, grapefruit, celery seed, and ledum. So those are some oils you can use to support your liver in all of its many functions. And if you'd like to know more foods, if you'd like to know more help, more support on any of this stuff that I've shared with you of how you can support your liver, if you'd like to know more of how you can find out whether or not you have this SNP that affects the gene EPHX1 and how it creates that enzyme, it's very helpful to know that so that you can use some of this information in supporting yourself. So if you want to know how you get your genes tested to know whether or not you have this SNP, contact me, email me, get on my newsletter. You can also contact me through social media, especially Facebook. You can send me a direct message through Facebook and ask about that, and I can point you in the direction of more resources. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, share it. If you know of other people who can benefit with the things that I've shared with you today, share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm always dropping new videos about health and wellness and mind-body connection. This video is a part of a series, as I've mentioned, of other genes and how they affect the body functions. So with that, I wish you well. Enjoy your day, protect your liver, and create lots of good health and happiness and thriving. So until next time, take care.